The past 30 years of democracy in South Africa have transformed the musical landscape, giving the rise to genres such as Kwaito and Amapiano that now dominate the global airwaves. Now, with international stars like Chris Brown expressing admiration for South African music, the question arises, how effectively are we branding ourselves and leveraging this cultural influence? I'm now joined by Lesley Mofokeng, who's RISA Communications Manager. This is to discuss the significance of the music, especially in this journey, and its potential impact on our economy. Mr. Mofokeng, thank you for your time on the program. Welcome to it.
Thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Wow, what a time to be alive. And I want to hear from you right now some of your reflections when we look at how far music has come in South Africa, especially when you hear conversations where people say music has been a unifier for South Africans on many years on end. What would your reflections be?
Well, let me start off by saying that today, the South African Music Awards celebrate 30 years. We'll be showing that on SABC when it's going to be a big occasion for us. It's a big moment for the industry, and I think it's a big moment for the culture, as young people of today say. And I think when you watch the show itself, the Summer 30 tonight, you will notice the actual journey that has been traveled by South African music, especially after 1994. It's a 30 years, it's a sound of democracy. I believe that there's a shift that happened in South Africa post-1994 when bands like Boom Shaka came into the scene with a different sound, different look, different dance, different approach to music. And this excitement that was coming out of the townships and rural villages and even the suburbs of young black people expressing themselves so freely. We also had the likes of Bongo Muffin, we had Trompies, we had the likes of Arthur Mafokate, who released a song that was very controversial back in the day, where he used the K word actually to fight the racism that was still pervasive in South Africa. And I think there was a moment in our journey as a democracy when Arthur Mafokate reminded that there were still people who were using the K word on Africans. And I think it was also a moment where he woke us up from this slumber and this excitement that we were all sort of this honeymoon phase, that we were all in embracing the new South Africa, to remind us that there are still elements that do not see this progress that everyone was seeing. And that the music has grown from there. And you get into the 2000s, which were dominated by the likes of the TKZs of the world and those bands like Bongo Muffin and others, where they addressed social ills and they addressed some of the dangers that young people felt. I'm reminded here of songs like The Groover's Prayer by Tebe, who was really asking for protection, that we are having this great time, but be with us, let us be safe in what we do. And there were challenges that society faced. If you remember well, I mean, in the early 2000s, we had a really big problem, pandemic of HIV. And this was also reflected in the music that was being released. Ms. Bongile Khumalo released a song on HIV, and many other musicians who rose up to remind us of the problems that we were facing as a society.
And fast forward, I must say that music has also evolved, and we're seeing some new genres also coming into play with some new players as well in the industry. Let's hear from you. What is your take on how this message, or the message that they bring these days, has been packaged? Because you did say that there was some sort of substance earlier, but when we fast forward to 2024, what's your take on the musical landscape in the country?
I want to sound old and say that today's music does not make sense or whatever, but I'm going to say that every generation has its own struggle to face, has its own signature to make, has its own challenges to face. When you think back to before 1994, that there was this thing called struggle theater and struggle music and those kind of things that were voicing the frustration of black people, under this oppressive white rule. And then in 1994, Kwaito came out of the townships and the villages of South Africa as a sound of people expressing their identity and showing what they have to offer this new South Africa. Fast forward to 2024, maybe even 2020, maybe even 2019, we saw the rise of Amapiano. And I think it is a cardinal moment in the journey of South African music, this genre that has taken us to the world. When you think of songs like Jalabam, when you think of Iplan, those kind of songs have taken over the world, and not just, within our borders as South Africans. And then there's an interesting story of Tyler, who is not really Amapiano, but she straddles these genres. There's a bit of dance, there's a bit of R&B, there's a bit of Amapiano there in her sounds. And look at the success that she has gained in just under a year, or just over a year, winning all of these prestigious awards. She's going to be honored tonight at the SAMA with the International Achievement Award. That shows just how confident South Africans are with what they have to offer. And this goes back many, many years when you think of the likes of Miriam Makeba, who went to America and presented herself as an African. It's important. There's an important lesson there of authenticity and being real to who you are. Don't be ashamed of the voice, or rather the language that you speak, and think that if I don't twang, Americans won't like my music or understand me. Tyler speaks like a South African girl. She's proud to be a South African. She has the South African accent. She's not trying to imitate anyone, and that is why we see this success. Those are some of the elements that we have to remember when we talk about culture and how we transport it to the world.
Yeah, and I like that you also bring that element of authenticity and the importance of it as well. Just how can our artists embrace their uniqueness in order for them to leverage this and take themselves to the global stage?
One of the famous quotes that everyone will tell you in the music space comes from Nina Simone, who said, "It's the artist's duty to reflect the times." That is why I said it links back to what I said earlier on about every generation having its own challenge, its own challenges, and that are unique to them. And I think musicians are that voice of reason sometimes. Sometimes they're just really a voice of entertainment. They don't really have to feel the yoke and collapse from the heaviness of carrying the problems of the world. They are entertainers at the end of the day. They just want to express themselves and give us something to talk about. But I think for when you talk about authenticity and reflecting the times, as I say, Nina Simone's quote, it's important that musicians show the society what they are about. In many ways, I would like to compare music with journalism. Because in journalism, we hold up the mirror and say, this is your society, this is what you do, these are the news, this is what you're about. And I think music reflects that. And those musicians who manage to do that remind us of our beauty, but also address the issues that we face, and also challenge some of the viewpoints that we hold as people, as a society, are playing an important role. And those are the ones that I think have a bigger chance of lasting and having their music echoing through the generations to come.
So the SAMAs tonight, I still remember the very first time I watched one SAMA broadcast, and we've seen it also evolve over the years. Talk to us about that. I'm sure you must be excited.
Well, I was at SAMA 3. So I've been to 27 SAMAs, and this time around I'm there in my capacity as the communications manager for the recording industry of South Africa. And I can just tell you now that there is such an air of excitement outside there. The event is happening at Gallagher Convention Center in Midrand. We started with rehearsals this week, and I've seen the camaraderie between musicians. And I've seen how they're all coming together to celebrate this legacy brand that is so important to our culture, to the music industry. And really, as a standard bearer, this is where we actually put the mark and say, this is what we expect of you as a musician. There are big moments that are going to be seen tonight when people watch SABC 1 and SABC Plus. For example, Ringo Madlingos is going to be honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. I can tell you now that that performance will make a lot of people emotional. Also, watch out for Ndadesi Makabane, a gospel great, also honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. The Big O, or Skido Oskamdlongo, is going to be honored with a RISA Chairperson's Award in recognition of the work that he's done in the development of music and the industry at large. There are many other performances. I can tell you now, as I said, that when I look at it, it really is a bridge between the generations. The likes of Arthur Mafokeng are on the bill, the likes of Rebecca Malupe, Winnie Mashaba, KB Mutsilanyane, coming all the way down to the present generation, the generation of the likes of Zing Numalo, Luan Dlunkulu. So I think we're going to see South Africans in conversation. We've got like Ugacheni, he's also performing. We've got Tandeni SK. There's a whole lot. The theme this year is less noise, more music. What we're saying is that the attention must be on the craft. It really is about the music. It's not about the frills and the other things on the side, the distractions that hold us back as an industry. But at the heart and the core of this industry, of what the musicians have to do, is music. And that's what you're going to be seeing tonight, obviously along with prestigious awards that are going to be handed out to deserving winners.
Certainly less noise and more music. That is, of course, RISA Communications Manager Lesley Mofokeng talking to us about all things Summer Awards. Thank you so much for your time on the program.